Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 210th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have a brand new class coming from SoulCollectiveGuild called the Gambitier. Now, this class is going to come complete with 3 subclasses, but we're not going to get to those today. We are just going to be looking at the top tier class of the Gambitier and taking a look and feeling out that what it actually has. But in the next episode, well, not the next episode, not necessarily next week, but in a future episode, we will be looking at these subclasses. But for today, we are just going to tackle the Gambitier. So join us and we'll figure out exactly what Soul has in store for us. All right, let me unmute you because I didn't do that last time and I felt bad because I think there was like last episode, there was like a good 4 minutes where you didn't there we go. Now you're unmuted. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Because I do think last episode, I think on Friday, you were muted for a good 2 or 3 minutes. But it's fine. I figured it out.
Whatever. It happens.
All right. So we have the Gambitier. That's going to be interesting. So we have 3. So as far as I understand, there are 3 subclasses, but we're just going to try to tackle the main class today, and then we'll be able to look at the primary class, the subclasses later. So we're looking at the primary today, subclasses later. Of course, Soul, I know you're hyped. Of course you're hyped. Everyone's always hyped for their own review. I wonder why.
But I will give Soul credit. Soul is usually hyped no matter what we got going on here.
Today. Yeah, exactly. A good point.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I will say, so I will tell you, if I'm looking a little bit rough today personally, it's because today is the last day of my holiday vacation. I go back to work tomorrow, and I'm just not looking forward to it. You guys have no idea. I am not one of those people who think that streaming and YouTubing would be a cakewalk. I am not one of those people who is disillusioned in understanding that content creation is not simple and it is not easy and it is not a part-time job. But I will tell you that I would so much rather do this and try to edit videos and try to work the algorithm. I would just be so much more interested in working this than my major job. And I'm not saying that my major job is a problem. There's fulfillment in my major job. It's just there's nothing there's nothing I look forward to. Let's just put it that way. As much as I enjoy doing my job, as much as it challenges me, and as much as my day-to-day job is a good thing in the world, I'm just not looking forward to it. And not like the way that I look forward to stream. Not the way that I look forward to making content, and not the way that it excites me when I see new viewers on the YouTube channel or new followers on TikTok. Right. There's just something about seeing the growth that you and I create that is just different. You know what I mean? It's just there's something that's just different.
Accomplishment out of it rather than just kind of lightweight doing somebody else's work for them,
Right?
You feel like you're actually building something and contributing to something that you can feel like you're a part of rather than just a cog.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm just like, I appreciate doing this for as long as we have. I mean, we're going on 3 years now. And I appreciate doing all of this, but having to have a schedule that just goes against what my natural tendency is just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I would so much prefer this be my thing. I would much prefer this be my bread and butter. Because I can just do this as I please. You know what I mean? I'm not beholden to anybody else's schedule with this. So that happens. Kage is super quiet. Let me change that.
Oh, rude. I shall project my voice for all of you to hear.
There. Kage is up as high as he can be. So hopefully that'll fix it. No? Wait a second. Hold up. Oh, you know what? I know what's happening. Hold up. I was doing a recording the other day, or yesterday, and I turned Discord down because I didn't want Discord updates to interrupt my recording.
Oh, valid.
So talk again.
Check. Testing.
Okay, that should be much better.
DM voice check. We like it.
The LEDs are behind me are flipped. Yes, that's because if they were normal, then I'd be facing that way, which is away from Kage. So I flip myself. So when I'm looking at the screen, I'm at least, and kind of looking at chat, I'm generally looking this direction, which is at Kage.
Exactly.
So yes, that is unfortunately means that this is flipped. As you guys have noticed in the recent streams, I've been in the void, but my green screen has been moved. If you prefer the void, I can make the void. I mean, do you want the void?
You can't tell if it's flipped.
I mean, I honestly, I only did this because I haven't had it in the background for a while. But if the void is better, I mean, I can always, we can always make the void happen. Can you tell us a joke? You can always tell us a joke.
We love jokes.
I can't promise that we'll react positively, but you can always tell us a joke.
Is it a good joke?
How does an ice cube call its father?
Belt? Question mark? Wild. Sure, that's
Daddy chill. Wow.
Get out of here. Oh, that's crazy. You put the green screen thing on, and now when the colors change on the oh, that looked wild.
Right. And then now I just gotta go dink. And there. Now I'm officially in the void. There we go. Now now it's a little bit better. Now there's a little bit more consistency and not any consideration for things being backwards. It looks normal. Oh, all right. We have a review today. We have a new race submitted by Soul. This is going to be the top tier race, or a class. Sorry, yes, class. This is going to be a class submitted by Soul. It is a top tier class, which means that it will have some subclasses, but we'll get to that later. So right now, we are only going to go through the top level class of the Gambitier, and then at a future date, we will try to get through all 3 of the subclasses on a future review.
Yes. I think that'll be a really cool gauntlet. And these subclasses aren't too chunky, so I feel like we can make that happen.
Why are there always 2 other guys with us in voice chat muted? Don't you worry about that, Foxer. In fact, you're not supposed to be able to see that channel anyway. I don't know how you're able to see that channel, but you shouldn't worry about that. Don't you worry.
They're just chilling.
The fact that you can even see the voice chat is surprising because you shouldn't be able to. I thought I made that invisible to everyone. So I'm actually really concerned why you can even see that channel.
Yeah, that is strange.
But otherwise, it is just because of the setup that we have to do in order to hear and see and project. You got a plugin that lets you see hidden channels. I don't like that. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. You can see hidden channels.
That's very interesting.
That's interesting that you can see them. I'd like to know what plugin that I honestly I'd like to know what plugin that is, because there's a couple discords that I'd like to perv on and figure out, like, because there's sometimes I'm in like a discord and I'm just like, I have a feeling people are together right now, and you can't prove it because you can't see the certain channels. I'd like that plugin. I'd like to know what that plugin is, because there's a couple places I would use that plugin. Vencord. All right. I'm gonna let me. Can you put that in? Or are you able to access our channel real quick and put that in there? I'm curious because I could find some uses for that. I'm just saying I could find some uses for that. But it's also interesting because I'm just like, as a Discord server owner, I'm like, that's some bullshit that you can see that.
Yeah, if you had super secret, like if this was like a D&D thing and we had like some super secret DM stuff we wanted to hide from people, and then
Like what if you had a private voice channel for a certain player and you're just like, why are you and that player always in the voice channel? Be like, bruh, you're not supposed to know that. Deleted messages while they last. That's interesting. You can see deleted messages with it as well. That's some interesting. That's an interesting plugin. I didn't know a plugin could be so powerful, because that's admin level information. That's fascinating.
Yeah, really.
Huh. That's interesting. That's super interesting.
With Discord.
Okay. All right. Well,
is this like a
oh, we'll look at that.
Or is this like a, I'll look into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that, because there's a couple servers that I'm part of that I could troll some people. I'm just saying I could troll some people with that kind of information, and I just might. So thank you, Sfoxer, for letting us know about that, because I may work some things. I may work some magic here. Playing I Spy on X Games mode. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's get into today's review. So, oh, excuse me. I feel naked now suddenly. There we go. That's much better. All right, so today we have the Gambitier, a new full class submitted by SoulCollectiveGuild with a complete 3 subclasses. But as always, let's start with the description. A chaos-fueled class for 5e, inspired by the game Rounds. I did click the link. I did check it out on Steam for like half a second. I'm not as familiar with the game because I didn't have enough of a time to.
I think
really...
I've seen one person stream it before, but other than that, I'm pretty unfamiliar myself.
Okay, but if you are familiar with the game Rounds, then you'll be ahead of us. If not, go check out the game on Steam because it is there. So, no one truly knows where the first Gambitier came from. Some whisper of ancient gamblers who wagered with gods, while others tell tales of cursed decks forged by trickster spirits. What is certain is that Gambitiers walk a razor's edge between luck and ruin. They believe every battle, every decision is a hand dealt by fate, and they've learned to stack the deck in their favor. Some are sharp-eyed gunslingers in smoky taverns. Others are enigmatic duelists, calling cards that shimmer with arcane power. And a rare few are wild, unpredictable tricksters who laugh as chaos blooms around them. Whether guided by skill, luck, or something stranger, Gambitiers know one truth above all. Every card has its price.
Interesting.
I'm gonna say right out the gate, for a description, I'm hooked. I want to know. It gives me nothing. It gives me absolutely nothing to work with, but it makes me want to know how this works.
But like in the
so Balatro class. I like that Balatro class.
That would be wild.
But I mean, right off the bat, it's giving us an open-ended idea of where it can come from. Gamblers who waged with gods, cursed decks, all of those things are great to kind of give me ideas to work with as a DM, as a player. But
this class,
sharp-eyed gunslingers and smoky taverns, enigmatic duelists that have cards that shimmer with power, a rare, wild, unpredictable trickster with chaos. Like, it doesn't tell me what I'm gonna get out of this, but it kind of gives me an idea of people who have like almost gambled with the deck of many things, right? It's almost as if I'm inspired to almost say that as a DM, I could say that a gambler tried to fix a game with like a high powered, entity using a deck of many things. And therefore this class spawned because, you know what I mean? Like there's so many ways that I could make this sound really clever and I like it. Without giving anything away immediately, I'm intrigued and I want to know more. And the artwork so far gives me, I mean, definitely, just straight up a card player. I like it. All right. Ooh, we get something new here. We are not getting straight into the abilities. We're actually getting creating a Gambitier. So we're actually getting some character build information. I like that. I
don't know if they have one of these in like player's handbook type stuff, but a lot of the player's handbook classes do have a little intro, so it can be modeled after that. But
okay,
the races that we get sometimes you just get straight into the stats, and other times you actually get a little extra info. So
nice. All right, so creating a Gambitier. When creating a Gambitier, think about where you learned to channel fate. Were you a card sharp? I'm assuming that's a card shark who discovered a hidden power in your deck. Yeah. Did you make a pact with the being of chaos? Or were you simply born lucky? Your relationship with the cards defines you. Are you a meticulous strategist? Carefully building a deck of synergistic abilities? Or are you a thrill seeker who embraces the randomness of the draw? Quick build. You can make a Gambitier quickly by following these suggestions. First, make dexterity your highest ability score, followed by charisma. Second, choose the urchin or charlatan background. Third, choose acrobatics and sleight of hand for your skills. Okay, so while I don't mind this, it's definitely it presents the aspect of this is a class that only works if you lean into it. And that is where I'm going to have to say that concerns me, and it might get a ding, because if a class has to be played a certain way, and I'm not saying that this is the only way to play it, but if it's suggesting that this is the most efficient way to do it, I'm worried that this isn't gonna feel like a complete class, because I feel that classes should be able to be approached more openly, and this definitely makes it feel like there's a very specific way to play it, and if you don't, you're not going to get the most out of it.
So I wish I had my player's handbook handy, but at last part where it said quick build, starting from then on, I feel like, with the exception of dexterity versus something else for a different class, I feel like it's word for word what other classes have created in 5th edition. So I don't think that is...
And that's a 5th edition thing that I'm not aware of. I'm not aware that 5th edition presents a way to play a class.
Standard 5th edition across the board.
Okay, so, then I'm gonna retract my statement as that being a ding against it, because I'm not familiar with that, and I feel that's one of those things where, yes, older editions used to use prerequisites, which I'm in situations I'm a favor for, but overall I feel like that's overdone in like earlier editions. I will say that if this follows what 5th edition does, I won't hold it against it. I just feel that if you have to do that, it makes it feel less approachable. So that's maybe a personal opinion.
5th edition has to do that with any of their things, but they do it anyways. I feel like this is their version of making it more approachable to people who don't know what they want to do. But I do agree that a lot of people who read the rules are going to come to it and be like, no, that's the best way to build it, because that's what it says in the book. And I feel like you're just going to have those people if you put anything in writing anywhere. And so, I mean, theoretically, the ideal thing is to just not put it in writing, but, you know...
and Soul says in the comments, Soul says that they followed the book you know, pretty thoroughly when they did this. So it would make sense that if these kind of descriptions, these quick build ideas are in the book, I'm not going to hold it against Soul for the purposes of the review, but I will hold this against WotC and 5th edition for feeling like you need to shoehorn this idea of, well, if you don't know how to play this class, here's a quick way. And it's like you're basically telling them this is the bare minimum efficiency. And if you're not doing this or better, then what are you bothering? And it's like that to me destroys the concept of a class, because in my opinion, every class should be able to be played openly in any possible way. And the idea that there's a bad way to play a class just makes it feel like you're just metagaming.
I'll say there's a lot of stuff that I'll notice in video games where something becomes what's called the meta, of just like what everyone's doing, what's theoretically most efficient, what's theoretically like the best builds or whatever. And in good games, the meta will change constantly. So it's never just one thing. But the reality is, like somebody like me, in we'll say Marvel Rivals. Like when I play Marvel Rivals, I freaking love Squirrel Girl. I just have the most fun playing that character. I don't care if they're the meta or not. Like I'm gonna play that character. Very similarly in other games like Genshin Impact, for example, there was definitely a meta when it came to having certain combinations. But again, I played the characters that I had the most fun playing. So I think that in a case like this, they're kind of describing what the meta would be for a particular class. But there are going to be other people who just enjoy playing that class a different way, which is totally valid.
Yeah.
But and so like I guess I'll say I get why they say it, but at the same time, I very much agree that too many people can take it to an extreme. I don't think that extreme is something that we want I don't know what the right word is there, like perpetuated.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree. All right, so again, I'm not going to hold it against Soul because they're going based off the book, and so that's going to be a point against WotC, not against Soul. Because again, I don't understand why you have to tell people how to play the class. Like, if you have to tell them how to play it, then why did you bother making a game that can be played? And you know, it just is like, hey, here's an option, but if you don't play it this way, you're going to fail. It's like, well, then why did you make it available to play any other way? It's weird to me, but I digress. That's my problem. Oh, we have a table, a Gambitier table. Okay, so these are level proficiency bonus features. So unlike most other classes that we get where you get specialty spells, this is going to come with bonus features based on what level you get.
So I'll say this is similar to most classes. Most classes have a table of progression. This is where you'll see the subclasses pop up. You know how we say like, hey, what features do you get at these different levels? This is that table for the Gambler.
Right. So that's why at third level you see Path of the Gambler, right? So
yes,
that's going to be one of the three subclasses that you choose.
Correct. Traditionally, if it's a spell casting class, you will see an additional table for spell casting. But yeah, it looks like this one might not be well, do they combine those? Maybe they do sometimes. Maybe they do.
But yeah, this is going to be just the general. These are the abilities that you're going to get with the main class as you level up, regardless of what subclass you get. And Path of the Gambler at third level will probably be one of the subclasses that you get. Which path? Kind of like Barbarian. Which path do you choose?
Yes.
So we're going to get things like...
did have one. Dang it. So, you know how they have like weirdly specific names, like Artificer Archetype or Druid Circle or whatever. Well, I created one for this and I called it Gambitier Suit, but I already had Path of the Gambler. I should have put Path.
Gotcha.
I didn't see that.
So I am seeing a couple here that definitely feel like they're gonna follow suit, no pun intended. You have Chaos Deck and Lucky Shot. You have Path of the Gambler, Deck Mastery. I'm seeing Deck Mastery multiple times here. full control, limit break, chaos sync, triple draw. Definitely
break?
a lot of these things are going to be very specific to these subclasses. Yeah, there was the full pun intended. So I am really curious to see how these will all play out, because those do definitely sound like they're all going to be following through with the main class. All right, so let's begin with the class features. As a Gambitier, you gain the following class features: hit points, hit dice, 1d8 per Gambitier level, so not quite as high as a fighter. I forget what other classes follow with 1d8, but definitely more of the fighter and defender type of class.
Druids and I think warlocks have a d8 in 5th edition.
Okay, so these are more of like your spell class or your spell casting classes, and less of your fighter tanky classes.
Yeah, I think rogues are also a d8, so they're kind of in there as well a little bit. I don't remember what rangers are. I feel like they're a d10.
Okay.
But, yeah, so not always spellcasty, but definitely not a frontliner. We'll put it that way.
All right, and then hit points at first level, 8 plus your Constitution modifier. Hit points at higher levels, 1d8 or 5 plus your Constitution modifier per level after first. No problem there. Rangers are d10. Ooh, interesting. Okay. I don't know what Rangers are at 5th edition. All right, so proficiencies. We get light armor proficiency. Weapons, we get simple weapons, hand crossbows, short crossbows, and pistols. So this is a more likely leaning towards a ranged fighter. Tools, we have the deck of cards, saving throws, dexterity, and charisma, and skills. Choose 2 from acrobatics, insight, sleight of hand, arcana, deception, and persuasion. I definitely think sleight of hand is going to be the number one choice for any of these classes, it sounds like.
Probably.
Pokenator says if this is a martial class, it's probably going to need a similar boost to power on similar level to SA is I'm not sure which we were talking about there. If it's caster, one of the tank. Sneak attack. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Got you. So like most things, like most melee fighters that aren't a caster have something that increases their turn-by-turn damage. You know, paladins have smite, fighters have a bunch of extra attacks, and rogues have sneak attack. So it'd be beneficial to have something like that to boost their round-by-round attack.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Caster.
Yeah. All right, so equipment. You start with the following equipment in addition to the equipment granted by your background. You get leather armor, 2 daggers, a set of playing cards. Choose one of the following: a short sword or a hand crossbow with 20 bolts. Choose one of the following: a short bow with 20 arrows or a simple weapon. Any simple weapon. Choose one of the following: an engineer's pack or an explorer's pack. Alternatively, you may start with 4d4 times 10 GP to buy your own equipment. Totally fine on the initial layout. What's interesting though, and correct me if I'm wrong, I am not familiar with how 5th edition does the general start out, but it is interesting to me that while you can start with a variety, the fact that the first option includes a crossbow and the second option includes a short bow. I'm not familiar with one that with any options normally that leans so heavily into, if you have a choice of starting weapons, that both the first and second options include the same category. Normally, from my experience, they try to separate like a hand crossbow and daggers, or daggers and a short sword. It's just not in my immediate thought that the fact that they get a crossbow and a short bow as their option 1 and 2, I think that's unique. I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying that off the top of my head, I don't remember any standard classes that would normally allow you to double down on a particular fighting style. Normally, it tries to diversify you.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I will say, for a lot of the starting equipment, I feel like, paladins, they start off with chainmail and a holy symbol, so having standard armor is pretty standard. I feel like there's one general item. I think the two daggers is kind of fit for that, and then they do have like the options. But I will say I'm not seeing, because I was curious about that too, having a ranged weapon in both weapon choice options. Normally, I would think it'd be a short bow or a crossbow, and then two melee weapons side by side as an option to choose against, right? So,
And that's all I'm saying is I'm not, I like it. I'm trying to point out that I don't think that this is common to be able to double down on a particular fighting style, which makes me think that reading this, there is an intended fighting style, that this is going to intentionally be ranged.
I'll say they normally double down on the melee side of things. They're way more akin to giving you a lot more melee options than they are ranged options. Usually you have one choice of ranged option. Well, you have two choices, but like one slot for a ranged option and then a bunch of melee options. But having two ranged here is definitely the exception to the rule.
I do like that though. I like kind of leaning into it. I don't mind a class that knows what it's trying to do. You know what I mean? I don't mind a class that knows what it's trying to be strong in. So I'm not upset with it. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't something normal for 5e that I wasn't aware of, because it did just strike me as unique to double down on ranged options. But I like that. I don't mind it. All right, so Chaos Deck at first level. So now we get to the first beginning of the abilities. So at first level, you begin building your Chaos Deck, a collection of buffs and drawbacks that shape your play style. So buffs and debuffs. Each time you gain a level in this class, you draw one card from the Gambitier card pool. You keep every card you draw. This means at level 20, you will have exactly 20 cards. Cards are permanent unless replaced by an ability such as Mulligan. Okay, so every level you draw a card, you're going to have more and more abilities. Now, two things that immediately strike me. The first thing is that by level 20, you're going to have 20 cards. That's a lot. Not just a lot of player agency, but that's just a lot to keep track of. I mean, by level 20, there's already plenty of things to keep track of and to do. I feel like at level 20, having 20 different things I could, again, just initial knee-jerk reaction, assuming that these are 20 different things I can do, I'm gonna feel like that's overwhelming, or that a lot of these things, like we've seen before, it makes me feel like a lot of these are not going to live up to anything meaningful, and they're going to be great ideas, but they're never going to be used, right? It's going to be that whole 5 to 6 of these are going to be great, and the other 14 are going to be, that would be cool once in a while.
Are we sure that each card is a unique thing and they're not just like
well, we don't know.
Economy currency?
We don't know. It just says the fact that you're going to gain one card per level and that you're going to have 20 cards total. My first knee-jerk reaction is it's going to be complicated and it's going to be a lot for the player to keep track of. My
initial instinct.
My second is that you're going to get something every level. How does that balance with every other class that doesn't, and we're not even on the subclass yet. So the simple fact that this class benefits you every level is going to be very hard to justify how that is going to be balanced to every other class who needs to wait 4 levels for something.
It does happen in every other classes, and that's my point. If this is being used like a resource, like sorcery points or key points or something like that, and it's just saying you now have this many cards that you can now use and choose from, then that would make a lot more sense. So if
right, we don't know how these are used yet. We don't know if you can only use one of these a day or not.
So if when we continue reading we discover that it's not an individual thing where you're going to have a bunch of cards and every time you try to take a turn you're going to have to choose from 20 things in your
True.
hand.
I agree.
If that's what's happening, that does feel like a lot, but I think there's a possibility that it's not going to be that complicated.
Yeah, so again, it just depends on how it's done, but 20 effects, one per level, is just more than any other class ever will imagine. And so it just sounds like a lot. That's all I'm saying. Is initially speaking, it sounds like a lot for both player and DM to keep track of, but I don't know. I'm gonna hold off because like Kage said, what if there's only 10 abilities and the cards allow you to do different things? I don't know. I'm just concerned because one thing every level is unheard of, right? Gaining something every level is my first like, wow, you're gonna give a benefit every single time they level up. That's a lot to keep track of, and that's a lot to balance with other classes. But it also depends on how often you can use it. So we don't know. All right, so let's figure out exactly what these abilities are, because we get one per level up to 20. So we have example card. Okay, we only have example cards. Do we actually have a full card deck? No, we don't. So that's another thing that I don't understand. So each time you gain a level, you draw one card. I'm only seeing 5 examples. So do we have the entire card list here? And how many cards are there? Is it a 52 card deck? And
so
you can pull up to 20 of a 52? Because I'm just seeing, I don't understand.
So this might be a little bit of clarification from the author, but what it looks like is, and I remember reading in a later part where certain elements are going to be up to EM discretion. Now, I don't know if this is accurate, but it kind of feels like when you use one of these cards, you determine what it does, and these are the examples of types of things that it can do, and you can like work it out. So almost, I would.
Okay. So the whole card list is in progress. We just don't have the entire card list. So these are examples of what could appear, but Soul, the author, does say that there will be a full card list. So I want to ask Soul, the author, is it intended to be 52? Is it intended to be a 52 different effects and you can pull up to 20, or do you plan on there being exactly 20 and every level you're going to get? Because there was 2 different mindsets, right? If there are 52 different abilities and you can get a random assortment of 20, versus if there are only 20 abilities that you get per level, but you are going to get to select what order there are, but you're going to get all of them. Those are 2 completely different paths of character creation. Because think about that. If you created a character knowing this class will give you a random assortment of 20 of 52 abilities, that's a completely different gameplay than knowing that here are the 20 abilities you're going to get. You just get to decide the order you get them in, right? I'm interested to know what the intention is, because even though we don't have the whole list, even looking at these examples, if I think that these examples are guaranteed, but they're in a select order versus these are just potential options, my mind is going to go in different directions on how I think this is balanced, right? So Soul says it's not a standard deck of cards. There are more cards for this that you can pull from. Okay, so from what I'm getting from Soul is it's not a 52 card deck, but there are more cards in the deck than there are cards you can pull. Meaning that while you will get 20 cards, you will not be guaranteed 20 abilities. There could be 25 abilities, there could be 30 abilities. You're only going to get 20, but you're not going to be guaranteed which ones they are. It is going to be a random 20 abilities out of 25, 30, 40, 50,
so they're
however
random,
many.
Choosing what you get.
As far as what, because again, I'm only going off of what Soul says, and Soul says it's not a standard deck of cards. There are more cards than you could pull. So if you get 20 cards, there are going to be more cards, which means there are going to be more abilities than you can plan for. So it sounds like it's going to be random. It sounds like you're going to pull a card, and if there are 40 abilities, you're going to get one of those 40 abilities every level. But it doesn't sound like you're going to get to choose. And if you could, I would say if there are a set number, I wouldn't think the player getting to choose is a good choice. I think a random choice is the right way to go. It does still sound complicated. It does sound like there's a lot going on here. Use a Munchkin deck to use whatever it rules as your feat. That would be very fucking interesting.
That would be absolutely wild. That would be absolutely wild.
Okay, so it is. So Soul, the author, does confirm that it is completely random. So whether there are 25, 30, 40, 50, 100 different cards, it doesn't matter.
Until just now that this was about the game rounds, and it makes so much more sense why.
Oh, so you know the game rounds?
No, like again, I swear I've seen like one stream of it. I barely know how it works, but like from what I have seen of it, it is an insanely chaotic, like wildly crazy and massively overpowered game. It's like a game where you're running around and trying not to get hit, and like you could die in like 2 seconds because a giant laser or a bomb just like explodes and like whites out the entire screen. So like there's a lot of like craziness that could happen in that game, which kind of
So I will say this. My initial knee-jerk reaction is 20 abilities. Again, just still going back to the whole thing of you're offering more than any other class will ever get. You're offering one thing per level. And unless you're going to add detriments, I'm concerned this is just too much. Now, I wouldn't mind one card every 5 levels, and then you could make 20 cards. Like, I don't mind the idea of a random ability. My knee-jerk reaction is just 20 is too much. But let's look at the examples real quick. We haven't even talked about the examples just yet. They've been on screen, but I haven't read them yet. So we have 5 examples of what these cards could look like. First one is called Big Bullets. Your ranged attacks deal an additional 1d6. The debuff is that your movement speed is reduced by 5. So I do like that there is a buff and a debuff. It seems like there is going to be a trade-off here. I do like that. But second one, double your weapon dice, but enemies crit you on a 19 or 20. I will say right now that one is not a detriment. There's not enough of a detriment between critting on a 19 and doubling your damage dice. I don't care. That is not like the glass, and calling it glass cannon. I'm not buying it. That is not a glass. That's not what a glass cannon is.
Balance to this would be double your weapon dice, but enemies that hit you, maybe specifically with melee attacks, have advantage. Like
right, like yeah, exactly. Like the fact of you being that sounds better. We have one called Bouncy. Ranged attacks ricochet to a second target within 10 feet, but your AC is reduced by 1. That's wild. If that does full damage, your AC, 1 AC is not enough to say that I can attack 2 people in 1 hit. I'm sorry. And again, it makes me assume that that's a guaranteed hit. If I hit 1 person, I'm guaranteed to hit the person within 10 feet. 1 AC is not a good enough exchange. And then how long? How long does that AC go down? Like, is it permanent? Is it 1 round?
You have to decide how, like, which target the second target's going to be. And if your roll hits both of their ACs, then you can hit both of them. Like, I still wouldn't just let them hit anything. That's crazy.
I'm just saying. Okay, and then we have Chilling.
More of a detriment than 1 AC.
And then Chilling Presence. Enemies within 10 feet have a -2 to attack rolls. However, you take 1 cold damage at the start of your 1 cold damage versus a -2 to attack rolls. 1 damage, 1 HP, 1 HP to inflict every enemy within 10 feet a -2 to attack.
So an important point has just been brought up in chat. With these permanent abilities, because looking at this debuff, It says 1 cold damage at the start of your next turn. That makes me feel like these things get activated at certain points, and you can only do these at certain points.
Or do they last for the rest of the combat, right? Like if I pulled this card, how long do I take that damage? But here's my other thing, is like 1 HP for up to 5 enemies with a -2. I think it should be 1 HP per enemy within 10 feet.
Here's my fix. And I kind of like this, but it's like, okay, the first one, your ranged attacks do 1d6.
Oh yeah, that's a -2 to everyone.
So if I was going to change this first one, I'd be like, your next attack, on your next turn, your attacks deal your ranged attacks deal an additional 1d6 damage, but you have -5 movement speed for the rest of combat. That's how I would do it. A much longer debuff for a short game. And same thing for the glass cannon. Yeah, you can double your weapon dice for this next attack, but enemies crit on a 19 or 20 for the rest of combat. Do something like that, and you have a -1 AC for the rest of combat, and you can ricochet this particular attack, right? Like, do something like that, and
so the other thing here I will point out though, in Soul's defense, is that we don't know how these cards are used. We know that these are the type of cards you can collect. We don't know how long they last. We don't know what the action economy is, how they used. So just looking at these first 5, I am concerned. Getting 20 of these is concerning. But that's from the assumption that these will be able to be used more than once. Now, if we find out that you can collect up to 20 of these, but you can only use 1 card once, period, and they have some sort of time limit, then I would be more intrigued. Like, if I could get up to 20 cards, but once I play a card, it's out of my deck, it's gone, and I only get a new... Like, if at level 1 I get a card, and I play that card, and it's gone, and I don't get a new card till level 2, versus... I get a card at level 1 and I don't use cards until level 5, and now I have 5 cards to use, and then 1 at a time. That's different.
Are not the primary way to use this class. If cards are the primary way to use this class, and I only get 1 per level.
I agree. I totally agree, and that's why I'm trying to understand how the balance is. Now, the author Soul says that this is not a one and done, so I don't know. I'm. It's an intriguing idea, but I'm initially feeling like A, the examples are too powerful, and B, 20 of these that are just over, like, usable multiple times. I am a little bit concerned how this is going to work out. We don't know how, again, we don't know the action economy. We don't know the length. But I will say the amount of cards you get and the abilities feel very OP and complicated. That's my first initial knee-jerk reaction. I do feel like a few people in chat might have the same thought process, but we'll see. All right, so Lucky Shot. Starting at first level, once per short rest, you may re-roll a missed attack. You must use the new roll. So it's not an advantage. You can just straight up re-roll it and use the new roll once per short rest. And it's only on attacks. It's only on attacks.
Not terrible.
Okay, so
there's a slight difference to advantage. Pokeniner. When you have advantage, you get to choose which one you use, which means if the first one was better, you can take the first one.
But the point is this one's saying if you miss the first one, you get to re-roll. You have to take the second one. So even if the second one misses, you still miss.
Sure.
But this is more leaning towards advantage because you can only use it when you miss. So yeah, it's basically saying advantage because, again, if you roll with advantage and you miss both ones, you miss both ones. So I could understand what Pokeniner is saying here is technically this is just a different way of saying advantage, because if you miss, it doesn't matter which one you choose, right? It doesn't matter if you take the higher one. Like, advantage is only really a matter if you could crit.
If you roll a 1, though, if your second roll is a 1, guess what? You crit fail.
That is fair too. Yeah, you're guaranteed. Yeah, you're guaranteed a crit fail, but you're also not guaranteed to go from a hit to a crit. So it's a weird way of wording it. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. I see what you're saying, Super Fox. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's a weirdly worded way of saying it, but advantage does mean that you could hit them and potentially still crit, but if you don't crit, you still hit. This is you either miss and miss or you miss and hit, period. Like, it's either a guaranteed. So I don't know. I don't mind it. I don't mind it the way it's worded because it does apply to the fact that it has to miss, and that means you get a second chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind the way it's worded. I think it applies to it.
I agree. I'm not super against it. It's small. Plenty of other things will give you a lot more, like barbarians.
I mean, I will say at first level, getting some. Yeah, but at first level, at level 1, getting this on a short rest, I'll say that's pretty bold. That's pretty bold.
Sure, but I'm confident that there are literally races that give you abilities that are stronger than this.
Other than luck from a tiefling, I don't know what would be stronger than this.
I mean, honestly, there are some races that just give you resistance to a certain damage type. I think resistance is stronger than one reroll a short rest. That's a lot of damage mitigated, depending upon if that damage is being done to you, but this is just one potential miss that might be a hit.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like this is a lot for first level. I wouldn't mind this at third. I feel like it's a lot for first level to just come out the gate swinging. You know what I mean? But maybe that's just me. Yeah. Maybe it's just me. Let's see. So we have controlled chaos at second level. So at second level, you gain limited control over your draws. You gain the following 2 features. So this is the first time we've mentioned the actual deck. So at this point, you have 2 cards, right? You got a card at first level, second level. Now you actually have them. We still haven't figured out how you use the cards just yet. Mulligan. Once per long rest, you can discard the card you just drew and draw a new one. So at first level, your first card, you get whatever your first card is. At second level, you draw your second. And now every long rest, you can keep redrawing the last card. So in this particular case, it'd be the second card. Once you reach third level, you're locked into the first 2 cards, but you can keep mulliganing the third card. And then once you reach fourth level, the first 3 cards are locked in, but you can keep swapping out the fourth card every long rest. And then once you reach fifth level, the first 4 cards are, you know what I mean? Like, so that's the idea, is that you basically every long rest get to cycle cards until you're happy. And then once you level up, whatever you had before is locked in.
So I will say, personally, I need a little bit of clarification when it comes to what's going on and like what you have access to in this class. Because I'm hearing the idea of a deck and drawing cards from a deck, and then I'm hearing the idea of like you now have these cards, and I would say that's akin to your hand. All right, so these are the cards I have in my hand. So at second level, I should have 2 cards in my hand and whatever other cards in the deck, right? And so this is saying that I can mulligan by when I take a long rest, I can take one of the cards from my hand, discard it, and pick out another card from my deck. Like
now, if you think that's already complicated, wait for this next part at second level. Stack the deck once per long rest. So not only once per long rest can you exchange the last card you got. So again, at second level, it's only your second card. But not only can you swap it out at long rest, but once per long rest, when you draw that card, you can look at the top 3 cards from the pool and choose which one to keep.
Okay, so when are we drawing cards? Has anything...
So at every level up, you're gonna draw a new card. But so at level 1, you drew a card, right? You have 1 card, that's it. Bam, you drew a card. Let's say you drew your range attack, steal an extra D6. That's it. That's your first card. At level 2, you draw double your weapon die.
Okay.
Every long rest while you're at level 2, you can redraw your double your weapon die. Maybe your first long rest, you draw the range attacks ricochet, and you don't like that. So your next long rest, you redraw, and you're like, enemies within 10 feet have a -2, and you're like, I want to keep that one. So you keep your range attacks deal an extra d6, and you keep enemies within 10 feet have -2. At level 3, you draw a card. Let's say you get double your damage die. At a long rest, you're like, I don't like double your damage die. Long rest, I'm going to draw a card. You get range attacks ricochet. You're like, I love that. At level 4, you draw a card. It's double your damage die. You don't like that. At a long rest, you can only replace double your damage die with whatever else is possible.
So I'm tracking with you draw a card whenever you gain a level.
Yes.
That right now is the only time you draw a card, unless you are using Mulligan once per long rest. That is
yes, which will only replace your last drawn card. It will only replace the last card you drew.
Okay.
So
if I have both Mulligan and Stack the Deck active, that means both when I gain a level and when I choose the Mulligan, I get to look at 3 cards instead of 1 card and choose whichever one I want to keep and put the rest back.
Yes. That's the whole point, is Mulligan lets you swap it out, but whenever you level up, Stack the Deck lets you look at 3 cards and focus it.
So again, and this is where I struggle just with how this class is worded so far. Right now, at level 2, I still don't know how I use the cards.
Exactly. We don't. We have no idea how these cards are used in action economy. We don't know how often they can be used. We only know how to draw them so far. So I will say that that would be one of my biggest critiques, is that we don't actually know how these cards are put into use, because the point is you get 1 per level. Every long rest, you can swap out the last one, but whenever you draw a new one at a new level, you basically get to choose from 3. There are definitely easier ways to do this. There are much easier ways to word this, because I think the idea of saying you get to choose from 3, but you also get to swap them out, it's like, why are we giving so much control to specific cards when you could just say, why not just, like, honestly, at this point, why not just say at every level you get to choose what's your next card out of a list? It's just, it seems like there's a lot going on here to no end, right? It's not really solving any problem. It's just appeasing a player who may get a random choice that they don't like, which to me, that's the point of a game. That's the point of dice. That's the point of randomness. But if you're saying, hey, you get a choice, but if you don't like it, you get 3 choices. But if you don't like that, you get to change it later. And it's like, why though? Why so much? Why not just say you get a random ability? And if that's the class they want to play, that's the class they want to play. But I'm confused on why we're giving so many opportunities to swap out the point of the class, which is to get something random. It feels like it's like, hey, this is a very random class, but it's not random because you can choose to back out of the randomness. And it's like, that's not the point. So maybe I'm confused on the approach of the class itself.
I'll say I understand at least the idea of wanting to stick to the theme, because I feel like pulling from a deck, and there's plenty of card games that let you like see the future and look at the top 3 cards, and like I get the idea of wanting to like put those elements into the class and how it's used, but some, like I will say I definitely need to know a little bit more about how this is supposed to function, how this is supposed to move, in order to have a good idea of how this
and again, the biggest, the number one issue that we're failing with right now is, we don't really understand the breadth of all the cards, but we also don't know how to use them. And without knowing how to use the cards, we don't know how spammable they are. Like what Foxer was saying, if you only have 2 cards, what's to stop you from just spamming the 1 good card you have? And if you fail, the 50-50 from the cards you want, the next round you get, the next long rest, you just immediately get to change it. Like, so Boxer makes a good point. What's the point of the randomness and the luck of the draw if A, you get 3 of the cards to draw from, and if none of those answers are what you want, you can just randomly swap it out every single day until you get the cards you want before you level up, which then locks it in. So it's almost like you are like and my biggest thing about that, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind the control, except the entire thing was a chaos fueled class. But you're literally giving this chaos fueled class all of the potential control. And it's like, if this is truthfully a chaos fueled class, why can I instantly undo anything I don't like? It's just, it doesn't feel chaotic. It feels very under control of the player. And it feels more like, oh, I'm inconvenienced, I'll change that. Instead of, I have no idea what's going to go on, which is the concept of chaos. So maybe that's me. I'm just confused because if it's meant to be chaos, there should be no control. But with this much control, it feels like it's not chaotic. It's just slightly less random.
Chaos control.
Chaos control. Yeah, exactly. And Foxer makes a good point. What's to stop a player from just playing like I wait a week and every single day I draw a new card until I get the card I want. I'm gonna take a month. I'm gonna spend 30 days until I pull the card I want. Like there is, I'm not saying that, yeah, a DM could just say, well, you can't, like, you know, the events will progress without you. But yes, it's just one of those situations where if this is meant for chaos, why are we giving the player so much control? And if there's so much control, why are there more cards than the player could, like, there's just so much going on here. I'm concerned of how many cards they have to look through, because then the player has to then, if they have this much choice, they have to be able to read all the cards. Because if you have 3 choices, every single time you pull a card and you don't like any of those choices, but you know there's another one, you have to read through all the other cards to know there's another one, to know you want a mulligan, to know that you want, like, it feels like too much. I think this would have been a great idea if there were 10 cards and you got one every 5 levels, because then there'd be 10 cards, but you only ever get 4 of them. And that would be enough to make this feel chaotic and random. I feel like asking players and DMs to be aware of over 20 different cards is a little bit much for a class, and we don't even know the subclasses yet. So hesitations all around. But again, we need to know how the classes or how the cards work. Without knowing how the cards work, we have nothing to go off of. This could be all perfectly balanced if the cards work a certain way.
For sure. So I'm hoping we get there somewhere in here, but I would definitely find a spot towards the beginning to articulate a lot of that.
I agree. All right, Path of the Gambitier. At 3rd level, you choose a path that defines your style, your suit. Choose one of the following options: suit of spades, suit of diamonds, or suit of hearts. That is the trick shot, the sorceress deck, and the joker. Now, we did talk about with the author, this was made in a pinch. I think this was a competition of some sort.
Yes.
So the reason for only 3, not 4 suits is simply due to the time crunch. So we are not going to hold that against the author. We understand there was a time crunch. We understand that this wasn't a fully fleshed out idea. So we won't hold it against them for the lack. Because I normally, if this was submitted to me as a fully fleshed out build, I would 100% hold it against you if you didn't give me all 4 suits. You can't give me something based off of a deck and not give me all 4 suits.
There was a specific reason as to why the last suit was something different than the rest of them.
Right, like that suit ascended to godhood, like spades ascended to godhood or something, like, you know what I mean? Because like, but with this, we're not going to worry that there's only 3. We're going to take it at face value. All right, ability score increases. When you reach 4th level, and again at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th, you can increase 1 ability score of your choice by 2, or 2 ability scores by 1. As normal, you can't increase an ability score above 20. So starting at 4th, so 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th. So 5 times you get to increase a single score by 2 or 2 scores by 1.
I'd say that's fairly standard.
Is that like I'm trying to think of like off the top of my head, is that standard to be able to that's 10 ability points.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you get 5 with wizard. There.
But this is 10. This is 10 across 20 levels.
5 ASIs.
Oh, okay. Abilities were increases. That's right.
5 ASIs.
And is it normally two or
exact same levels?
And it's normally 2, like you get 2 or 1?
Always. So anytime you get an ability score, you're either taking 2 ability scores. You're taking 2 every single time. It's 1 and 1 or 2 and 1 and 1.
Okay.
1 and 2 or 2 and 1.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was normal because maybe it's just the way that it was written. It sounded like it was more than the standard, but maybe that's just me not remembering ASIs properly. Okay. So that's normal. But that's starting at 4th level. So we just get a regular ASI, which does, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe I'm remembering that we normally do subclasses. We haven't done a main class in a while. So I'm not used to seeing this as,
not in there. Exactly.
Yeah. So to be fair, that's my fault, not against the author. All right. So at 5th level, we get double draw. Beginning at 5th level, when you gain a new card, you draw from the pool and choose one to keep. The other is discarded. Okay, so previously we saw that stack the deck, you get to look at 3 cards. And then you get to draw 1. And then this one says that beginning at 5th level, you draw 2 and then choose 1 and discard the other. So I don't understand. If I'm already able, every time I draw a card, to look at 3, why am I now able to look at 2? Those 2 are inconsistent. Because right here, stack the deck, right? Once per long rest, when you draw a card, you can look at the top 3. So that's assuming that you get to do the mulligan. But this is saying that when you reach 4 or when you reach 5th, you gain a new card, you get to draw 2 and keep one of your choosing. So does stack the deck not apply when I level up? Because it sounds like this is only when I level up. Like double draw is only when I level up, and stack the deck is only when I do mulligan, which is fine, but I need the verbiage to say stack the deck only works when you mulligan, because otherwise stack the deck is when you draw a card, and this says when you draw a new card or when you gain it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the verbiage isn't clear enough to say that this is only when you get a new card and this is only when you do mulligan.
But when you mulligan, you're still getting a new card, so they would have to, like, can't imagine a world where both of those things proc at the same time.
That's my point, is the verbiage needs to make sure that this is once per long rest. When you draw a card via mulligan, you can look at the top 3 and choose. This one should say that when you draw a brand new card, you draw 2. But why aren't these switched?
Card at level up.
Yeah. But why aren't these switched? Why would you not get 3 at level up and 2 during a mulligan? You know what I'm saying? Like it's negating the whole purpose. Because look, at 5th level, I gain a new card, so I get 2 to choose from. If I don't like either of them, it doesn't matter. I will literally wait 24 hours in game and then get 3 to choose from. So what's the point of leveling up to get 2 to choose from? And then 24 hours in game, I take a long rest and I immediately get 3 to choose from. One of those things doesn't make sense.
Because of how we're, again, assuming this works, is when you level up, you get a card. And you keep that card for the rest of the time you are this character, right? At level 5, it would be cool if those 3 cards that you get to draw with Stack the Deck, I now get to choose 2 of them, and I keep both of them. Whenever I use one of them, that card does not come back to my hand. So,
say that again?
Theoretically, so like when I level up and I get to use Stack the Deck, leveling up using Stack the Deck, specifically when I'm leveling up. And I get to look at all 3 of those cards. Instead of taking 1 card and putting the rest back, I take 2 cards and put the other 1 back. Now, theoretically at level 5, I would have 6 cards in my hand at this point. So, of those 2 cards that I just picked up, second I play either one of them, that card stays gone forever. It goes back to the deck, and it does not go back to my hand. My hand is now a 5-card hand, as it should be.
So essentially, you get like a free cast every time you level up. You get one free cast of something, and that's it.
Of a card. You get a free use of a card that you got to like pick and add to your hand. Like that would be cool if I got a one-time use card at level up. That I could just then use whenever I wanted to.
Yeah, and that's my thing is like, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm just confused on why the thing I can do every day is 3 cards to choose from, but the thing I can only do once per level is 2 cards to choose from. I'm gonna be stuck on that for a while as a DM and as a player. Why is the level up weaker than the daily? If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Because every day I can choose 3 cards to replace my last drawn card, but when I drew that card, I only had 2 choices.
Yeah,
that's I don't understand. For me, I can't articulate why that doesn't feel balanced, because something that happens every level up should be more powerful, right? Every level up, you should get 3 cards, 5 cards to choose from, but every day you should only get a random 2 cards that you could swap out. Like that feels better.
Because they're worded differently. One is like you're seeing the future, you get to look at the top 3 cards, and the other is you get to put 2 cards in your hand and you discard the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because they're worded differently that way, they're meant to act differently, but again, like you said, I'm not sure what that different way is. So it would need to be articulated.
Yeah, and like you said, I wouldn't mind that when you draw a new card, like even if double draw said at the beginning of 5th level, when you gain a new card, draw 1 additional card. That card, once used, is removed from your deck. That would be the language, because that means that every time I use Mulligan, I get to select 3 out of 3 cards to replace my 1. But whenever I level up, I choose a one permanent card and one use card, one-time use. Like I pull 2 cards and I say, oh, I love card A, I want to keep that permanently. So card B is just defaulted to a one-time use, period.
Okay.
And every time I level up, that's what happens. I choose a permanent card to learn forever, and I get 1 card as a one-time use. And that would make more sense, right? That would make it feel better, because that means that the mulligans would have their purpose and the double draw would have a purpose. But saying that when I level up, I draw 2 and keep the better of the 2, but then I can immediately take a long rest and swap it out for 1 of 3, what's the point? Like, to me, I will have to say as a DM and as a player, what's the point of doing that? Because in game, I can easily say, well, I take a long rest. Okay, now I swap it out. Like, it doesn't feel like it progresses properly. But getting a free spell, like getting a free ability to just cast once, yeah, I could be in for that. Now, granted, we also have to remember, this is every level. Every level you're going to grab a new card. So I would also say that I would prefer, again, if this was like once every 5 levels, it'd be more impactful. If you got a free ability every level, a free spell to just cast once every level, that would probably be OP. So, everything's with a grain of salt. All right, deck mastery. At 6th, 10th, 14th, and 18th level, you can upgrade one of your existing cards. Damage buffs increase by 1 die, so 6 becomes 2d6, then a 3d6. Debuffs may lessen slightly or remain the same, which I don't understand what that means. Or, at the DM's discretion, upgrades can evolve into new hybrid effects. This is great, but you need to be able to provide, like, as someone who creates D&D content, this is not something that the traditional DM will be able to take and utilize. Like, I'm okay with that. I could read that and go, fuck it, I got ideas. But most people in 5th edition will need examples of what you mean by that. Upgrades that can evolve to new hybrid effects. You've got to at least say, you can combine 2 cards, right? Like you can cast 2 cards instead of 1. Like it's almost too vague and too open that I think DMs would be dissuaded from using it because they're like, I don't want more work, and players wouldn't know how to use it. So my only critique here is it's a way to go, but you need to add examples. You need to give people a path to take, because I just think too many people would be concerned about how open-ended this is.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm not against it at all. I don't mind
Again,
the idea of buffing your
overall,
cards at
I'm
all.
not against like the last line, the DM descriptions of like, I'm not against that, but I can see how quickly there's already a lot of discourse when it comes to a lot of, fairness and equity when it comes to a lot of these games. And I know that I've been a part of games where DMs preferred some people over others, and so, I'll be totally willing to give you this really cool combo, but you don't get this really cool combo. So giving the players, something that they can count on, something like valuable that they can count on, like, I feel like is really good. And you do that with like the damage buffs. Again, the debuffs, again, lessen slightly. Like, does that mean I go from 5 feet to 1 to 4 feet? Or does that mean...
Right. Yeah. I would just say better language. All we need is better language on this one, because I don't mind the abilities. And I would just say more examples. Just refine the language, give some more examples, but otherwise no change. I mean, I'm not afraid of this. This is a good one. Like, being able to buff the cards. Again, it's already enough that you have 20. I would reduce the amount, but an ability to buff the cards, I'm cool with it. Especially 6th, 10th, 14th, 18th.
This is crazy. According to the way this looks, you can choose what cards you buff. So if you have one card you like a lot, and you just buff that one over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and just keep stacking. So I do like that. I do like the ability that I can stack the same card or buff the same card multiple times.
I still gotta figure out how we use these cards, because
we still don't know if they're an action or what.
Be dangerous.
And we don't know if they're like once per long rest to be used. Like, that's going to be a big deal. All right. And then at so Chaos Surge at 7th level, starting at 7th level, once per short rest, you can unleash a burst of chaotic power. The effect is influenced by the cards currently in your deck or determined randomly by the DM. I want to give credit to the idea, but I don't think that this is like, it's almost like this is not for the right edition. Like, this was not built for 5th edition. All of these things aren't a bad idea for D&D or TTRPGs, but none of this I feel works for 5th edition. Because like, this idea that at a short rest, the cards you have in your deck determine the effect. It's Soul says the cards are passive and not active in terms of action economy. So you just gain 20 passive abilities over time, and then you can swap them out.
Real quick, go back up to the top. Let me see if I can pull
the examples.
To the
So that means that if you got these by level 5, your range attacks would be a D6, then they would be a D12, but then they'd also be able to hit 2 targets, and the enemies would have -2 to your attack rolls.
Chilling Presence for debuff. My question about that is, do I take -1 cold damage every 6 seconds?
No, it's -2 to your... Okay, and you take 1 damage at the start of your next turn. So the way I look at that is, from now on, every turn you take cold damage. You take 1 cold damage, period. Just
every 6 seconds.
Every 6 seconds. They're buffs, not abilities or actions. Yes, but the debuff means that you take cold damage at the start of your next turn. So every 6 seconds you take a cold damage. But is that only in combat?
It doesn't matter if you're in combat or not. Like, what's to say, like, what about your existence lets the cards know that you're in combat to start working then?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, just looking at these first 4, your range attacks would be a D6. Deal an additional D6 plus double your weapon dice. So if your weapon does a D6 and a D6, now you're doing 3D6. And your range attacks do a second target. So that's 3d6 to 2 targets just by those 3 cards alone. and that's only at level 3. So at level 3, you're doing 3d6 to 2. It's this is not a bad idea, but 20 cards is wild. 1 card every 5 levels. I think with just these abilities that we're looking at as examples, unless we see some very, like, if these are the best ones. Okay, so let's take a step back. Let's assume that these are the best 5 cards out of a deck of 30, and the rest of them are things like you get a +1 to charisma once per day. You get a +1 to history checks. Like, if there's a bunch of whatever nonsense, that's fine, because these wouldn't be so bad if you got all 5 of these, because hey, guess what? These are the best ones. But 20 of these cards, passive, and the player gets the choice of 2 every time they get a new one, and every long rest they get to swap one out. So if you get Chilling Presence, you're only losing a point of damage for a day, and then instantly long rest, boom, I'm changing it out. Like, I'm not sure there is a balance here in terms of how to.
You're gonna die 30 times over before that can even happen. Especially,
and that's my thing, is like
out the gate, like.
So I'm not sure how the buff debuff thing works. Like,
and that also brings me back to the entire concept of being able to like re-roll these things, and like, because if these are passive abilities, this feels like you're playing a roguelike game.
Okay, so
like, go through this dungeon over and over again and like constantly swap out your upgrades.
I immediately know a way to make this way more balanced. Like, I'm still going to say 20 cards is wild. I think that needs to be cut down, but here's an immediate way that we can make this work. Drawing a card from your personal deck requires an action, but every card is a passive ability for a set amount of time. So essentially what this class is building your own personal deck of many things. So every level you add a new card to your deck, but it should require an action to draw from the deck. And once you do, that card is only active for a certain amount of time and can't be redrawn until a long rest. So you could even say, when you pull,
discard pile.
Yes.
And you're gonna shuffle it back together when you do a long rest. That's
so
clean.
Basically the idea would be you can collect 20 cards, and it takes an action or a bonus action to draw a card. You can only draw so many per day, say equal to your proficiency modifier, which would be fine. And at that point, you collect this. So this way, all of these things where you get 2 cards every level up, every day you can swap out a card, that all makes sense, because the point is if the limitation was when you draw a card for a bonus action or an action, the card's effect lasts 10 minutes. If every card just had a blanket 10 minutes, you could use it for combat, you could use it for RP. Every card would make sense. And read these cards. So for the next 10 minutes, your range attacks deal an extra d6. For the next 10 minutes, you double your weapon die. For the next 10 minutes, range attacks ricochet to a second target. That doesn't sound OP, because you have to draw them in the middle of combat. And if you have to use action economy, you could draw up to 6 with your proficiency bonus, but it has to be done in combat. It has to be done over the course of several rounds, and it has to cost action economy. I don't care if every card is a boon to you. If it took that much, if these weren't just automatic passive abilities constantly, then I would be okay with it. But that's what we don't know. If this was a personal deck of many things that you had to draw upon, and then they only acted for so long, that would be the censure for me.
So this gives me vibes of the Wild Magic Barbarian, because whenever they rage, not only get their rage benefits, but they also get additional boons, a random additional boon. One of the boons for them is they can teleport up to 30 feet as a bonus action on each one of their turns. That's for the entire time they're raging.
Yeah, cool, but only when they're raging.
That's what this... Only when they're raging, which is basically the same as like only when you're in combat. And this is something I genuinely think we need to bring back from 4th edition. And I know nobody wants to hear it, but encounter powers. Stuff that is literally just, I don't care about a short rest. You can just use it once an encounter. That type of a thing. You get one of these per encounter. So like, and like, I don't know exactly how it would work in this situation, but like, this is something where it'd be like, all right, I feel like you can use this for this encounter. You can draw, like, imagine if you could only have one card active per encounter. You got all these cards in your deck. Every single time you go, you get to draw one of these cards, and boom, I'm in combat now. I'm under the effects of the Ace of Spades, or whatever the card.
And that's what I'm thinking is. The more I read this, the more I'm like, if this was a personal deck that wasn't always active, but you got to activate these abilities at random, I don't care if there's 100 cards to pull from and I get to make a personal deck of 20. We still don't understand how it's done.
Agreed.
But if you told me I spend any action economy, whether it's a bonus action or whatnot, to pull a card, and then for a set amount of time that is now active, and I can pull that any number, either, I wouldn't say any number of times, but then again, let's face it, if you pull all your cards, you pull all your cards, whatever. But even if you just said that you can only have as many active as your proficiency bonus, that would feel so fucking good to have, because it would level up with you, and to have 6 cards. Now, first off, you have to survive 6 fucking rounds to pull that off in the first place. But 6 of these, like just with these examples, having 6 of these 3 active would be fucking insane.
That's what I'm saying. So I think getting to the point where you could have more than one active at a time would be great. I think starting off, it should for sure be one, like first and second and third level. Like it should for sure be one. Like I can't. Like, if I'm thinking about it, like, how many do I think would be valid? Again, depending on how powerful they are. If this is any example of like the strength of these things, I would say this is relatively on par with the strength of the bonuses that you get from the barbarian subclass. And so being able to do this, and especially the fact that they do have detriments, being able to have more than one of them active, I'm okay with.
Exactly.
Even being able to have more than 2 of them active by the time you get level 20, I'm okay with. Like, imagine if you could do 3 or 4 of these by the time you hit level 20. Every 5 levels, you get to have more than one effect.
And that's why I'm not upset with proficiency bonus, just because they do have debuffs, and it takes action economy. If it took action economy and because they have debuffs, I wouldn't mind it just being equal to your proficiency bonus, because you have to, it's just like spellcasting. You have to choose to burn the economy for the benefit. But if there's a good mix, right? If there's a mix of other ones that will take damage from you, and it's random. If you have 10 cards and 3 of them could hurt you.
2 of those at level 3.
Because that's all I'm saying is, like, if you have 10 cards, right? Let's say at level 10, how many proficiency bonuses do you have at level 10?
I think you get up to 8 at that point. No, not 8. 5.
Okay, so let's say you have 5, right? So you could, if battle lasted long enough, let's say you could pull 5 cards out of 10 that you have. But let's say that at least 4, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's say 4 of those cards come with something like Chilling Presence that would damage you. Yes, it would take you a lot to waste 5 rounds. Like, let's face it, you're probably not even gonna last that long, or the enemy's not gonna last that long. But you still run a heavy risk of grabbing something that could eventually debuff you. And that's the other thing, without knowing the full list of cards, and if there are any that have a debuff that's way worse, because right now all of these buffs are better than their debuff. However, if there are any cards whose buff is worse than their debuff, like if there's a debuff that says you're now on fire for the next minute, but for the next minute you're immune to ice damage, is that better? Is it better to be taking fire damage while immune to ice? Like, those are the kind of things where that would be a funny card. Honestly, that'd be kind of a funny card. You are immune to ice damage, but you were on fire. You were actively... Now, for a red dragonborn, he'd laugh it off. For a tiefling, they'd laugh it off. But for anybody else, you have to still take fire damage to prove... So, yes, maybe if you're in the fight with a white dragon, and you know that their breath weapon will do more than you actively taking fire damage every round, then fuck it. I'll take 1d6 fire damage instead of 4d12 cold damage, right?
I'm curious
but
if
you
there was an ability that said it extinguishes all flames, including magical ones, if it would extinguish your flames, and then you'd still
right,
get the benefit, but not be on fire anymore.
So yeah, I'm kind of torn. I love this idea. I love the randomness and the chaoticness, but as of right now, without knowing how the cards work, without the action economy, without a length of time, and without and with knowing how much control the player has, I will say I'm not understanding how this is supposed to be chaotic. This feels too in control. So I would say that my solution is if there was verbiage that says drawing the cards required an act of some sort of action economy, and the cards only lasted so long, I'd be way more on board. Because the idea of having your own personal deck of many things as your class, like the purpose of your class is to draw a card and you don't know what's about to happen. Because to me, this is basically the wild magic druid version, right? It's basically just being a wild magic where you don't know what's going to happen when you cast a spell. It's just going to kind of be luck of the draw. This is almost like that. And I wish we would lean more into it than giving players too much control.
Yeah, I think the only change that I would make would be very similar. It would be make it an encounter power, make it just something that you can do once per encounter, and
or just make it last a minute.
It lasts for an encounter. It's basically the same thing to me.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, if you just make it last like what makes sense for an encounter or the roleplay purposes, it would make a lot more sense.
Basically, setting it up so that you can only do multiple of them every so often. Like,
right.
Like you can't stack them until it makes sense. Like, I'm still torn. Proficiency bonus. I think every 5 levels is my ideal, but I would have to look into it a little bit more to see if 2 at like, because you theoretically get to have 2 stacked at level 1, even though you only have 1 at level 1. But once you get to level 2, so
yeah. So I think I think that it's a lot of the verbiage and understanding how they work. I think that would clear a lot of this up. So just later, number 1 critique, just identify how to use the cards immediately. Like, we get cards right here, right? Chaos deck. You get to build your cards. You need to figure out how to use them. Like, we have no idea what we're doing with these cards. And that's the number 1 critique, is just identify right here. How do we use these cards? That would clear up so much. All right, but moving on. We have Enhanced Draw. This is a level 9 feature. Your mastery of the deck lets you squeeze more value from every pull. When a feature lets you draw multiple cards to choose from, you can keep 1 additional card from the unchosen options as a tempered card. The card you choose at full power is your focus card. A tempered card effects are reduced. Numerical bonuses penalties are halved. Damage dice reduced by 1 step, so 1d6 becomes a 1d4. Range areas are reduced by approximately 25 to 50%. This is too much. Limited uses have, so you get a minimum 1, but become once per long rest. Binary effects on or off become weaker variant. Attached debuffs are also halved. Just too much. Way too much. Honestly, this is kind of going based off of what Kage were just talking about, where the ability to draw 2 cards, it's almost like you choose a permanent card and then one's a one-time use. That's kind of what this is sounding like. But
that's kind of the vibe I got when I started hearing it too.
But the biggest problem is when a feature lets you draw multiple cards. Well, guess what? I have 2 features. Every single time I draw a brand new card, I get to choose 2, which means I automatically get 1 and then 1.5 power. And then what does that mean for, like, this says, so when a feature lets you draw multiple cards to choose from. So at every level, I get to choose 2 cards and keep 1. But at every long rest, I get to choose 3 cards and keep 1. Like, I get to swap 1 card. So does this proc, like, the language states that I'd be able to every day when I mulligan, every long rest, I choose 3 cards to swap out. So I choose one permanently, but then I get one as a like it's not clear enough on, again, it should specifically say when using double draw. Like if this is intended to be for the purposes of double draw, it should say double draw. Like, because right now it just sounds like I get cards upon cards upon cards.
Because the way I read this, like there's nothing that I can see that says you have to ever get rid of your tempered cards. So if I did this every short rest, I could have 10 tempered cards by next week.
And it just doesn't make any. So yeah, the language needs to be cleared up because this doesn't make any sense how we're doing this. It should focus on when you draw a brand new card. Like, but again, even if I'm drawing a brand new card, that means that every level starting at 9th. That means 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, all the way to 20th. That's 11 levels. I'm drawing 2 cards. I'm drawing a primary card that works as is, and a secondary card that works by half. So by level 20, I actually have 31 cards.
Oh yeah, 30. Yeah, 30.
Because I have 11 tempered cards and 20 primary cards. It's too much. And then who's doing all of this? Halved, the numerical bonuses are halved. Damage dice is reduced by a whole thing. And then it's 25 to 50. So who's deciding that? They're halved or become once per long rest, become weaker by once. This is too much to ask either the player or the DM to take care of, right? There's no easy way to do this. I would just say that if you want this, I would just say this is where you turn it into our idea. At 9th level, when you use double draw, the card that you don't choose to keep becomes a single use ability. So just when you use double draw, you choose 2 cards, you keep one, and then the other one you get to use 1 time. That's it. That would make this sound better, because at 9th level, being able to say, hey, I permanently want, you draw 2 cards, you draw big bullets and bouncy, right? And you're like, well, an extra D6 for my range for my range attacks because I'm an archer. Hell yeah, I want to keep that one. But I got bouncy, so I'm gonna use that. I get to use that once, and then so 1 time my range attack will ricochet. All right, Hoilepa, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Take it easy, go rest. So yeah, that would be my thing. Is all of this I think is just too much to ask for. Simpler way would be just focus it on double draw and let the other card that you don't choose be a one-time off ability. You know what I mean? It feels like that would go more with this than asking so much math, because this is just, these are so many variables. You have to take care of the penalty, the damage, the range, the limited uses, the binary effects, and buffs. It's just too much. I feel like it's just asking a lot. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. I don't mind there being something to add to the power, but I think there's a simpler way to do it.
Yeah, I would definitely approach this concept on how we were talking about it earlier. Instead of it being something that stays with you, have it be something that is a resource that is expendable or consumable. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Being able to use those consumable resources, like, feel like that gives your players an opportunity to play with something. Again, when you get key points, when you get bardic inspiration, when you get like whatever it is, whatever the thing is that lets you play with your kit a little bit more effectively, a little bit more creatively, I think that's great. But again, if there's too much, like one of my favorite fighter subclasses, it's almost too much. That is the Battle Master. The Battle Master, you get all kinds of what are they called? Maneuvers that you can do, but you have specific ones. You choose, hey, I'm gonna lock this one in. You can choose from like a whole list, but once you choose it, like this is the one that I'm doing, this is the one that I'm learning, this is what I'm getting good at.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, like, again, I get like wanting to have all. There really is just so much.
I think that's just it. It's a lot for everyone to be in agreement on, because with so many variables, if the player and DM disagree this late in the game, that's going to be a long conversation. So I would just like this tightened up to just, if you choose one, you get to use the other one time. That would be so much easier to do. But moving on, at level 11, we get triple draw. So beginning at 11th level, when you gain a new card, you get to draw from 3. You draw 3 from the pool and choose to keep 1. The others are discarded, minus the other one. So you get to draw 3 instead of 2. You choose one to be permanent, but of course, one of the 2 that you didn't choose becomes a tempered card. So it says you discard, the others are discarded, but not really. The other one becomes a tempered card. Again, I don't really know how this is a boon. So you're saying that when I gain a new card, I'll get to choose from one of 3. But why do I care when all it takes is a long rest and I can immediately swap that out for another 3? Like I still, every round, every day, I can choose to swap out the last card I got for one of 3. Why is this special? I've been able to do this since day 1. So I don't understand why when I get a new card, why choosing from 3 is anything special when I literally can do that the moment I wake up and say, I don't like this card, give me 3 more.
When I wake up.
So I'm just going to say this one feels like it doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? Chaos Sync, starting at level 13, you can fuse 2 of your own cards for another. Both the buffs and debuffs of the fused cards are active simultaneously. For one encounter. So, but what does that benefit you? Because if I only have so many cards at level 13, I have 13 cards, and then I turn 2 into 1. Again, if I'm pulling cards from my deck one at a time, and I can only have so many active, that would make sense. But this doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, this would be a really, really cool ability with what we were talking about earlier, where you can like temporarily fuse 2 cards for an encounter and then potentially get another one later.
Yeah, like if you only have so many that you can pull, but this ability lets you fuse 2 so you can pull additional.
All active all the time anyways because they're passive abilities, then you combining 2 together to make 2 passive abilities.
This definitely sounds, I will say the way that this sounds, right? You can fuse 2 of your own cards for an encounter. This definitely leads me to believe the intent was that these cards, while you gather them, still have some sort of activation, right? Because if these cards are just collected and always passively active, combining them makes no sense. Like there's no purpose to combine them unless the idea is that, because it just says you can fuse it, but there's no action economy. So how often can I do this? Because are you telling me that if I, at level 13, have 13 cards, but I combined a bunch of pairs, do I now only have 7 cards? Because I took 12, combined them, and now I have 6 combo cards and 1 additional, right? So instead of having 13 cards, I now only have 7. But that doesn't benefit me because I only get new cards every time I level up. So it doesn't allow me to have more cards because it's not like I get to draw more up to the amount I should have. I don't know what this ability is doing. Like honestly, triple draw and chaos sync so far, I don't know what they've added to the subclass because I've already been able to draw more cards every single day, and fusing 2 cards doesn't give me another card. Like it doesn't say I can, if I fuse a card, I get to draw a new one to replace it. So that would be the language I would say is if I use this ability, I should be able to draw a new card to get back up to the 13 I should have. And then I would even say starting at 13th level, once per level, you can fuse 2 cards that you own. When you do this, draw a new card. That would be great because at level 13, that means I can go from 13 cards to 12 cards because I fused 2, and then I draw a new one. And then at 14th level, I'll have 14 cards. One of them is fused, so it has 2 abilities. And then at 14th level, I can fuse 2 more. I'll drop down to 13 cards, 2 with fused abilities, and then I'll pull a 14th card. And then at 15th level, I'll do the same. So starting at 13th level, by 20th level, I'd be able to have, what is that, 7 dual effect cards? Like, that's where I would think it would make sense is if I'm only allowed at this point to have 13 and I get this ability, when I fuse 2 cards, I should still then only have 12, which means I should draw back up to 13, which would improve the purpose of the cards, right? That's where I think this would make more sense.
It's lightweight giving me Balatro vibes.
Yes, exactly. I think that was mentioned in chat before. Like there's definitely a Balatro build. All right, we got 2 more. All right, so limit break. At 17th level, once per long rest, you can activate all of your card buffs simultaneously for 1 minute. After this ability ends, you suffer 1 level of exhaustion. Okay. I will say this. Right now, we still don't know how these cards are activated, but this gives us a better idea that they are not always active. There is some sort of action economy to activate the cards, because obviously they're not all active all at once. So this is cool. Now, I will say this. Activate all of your cards. You have 17 cards by this point. 17. You're going to activate all 17 for a minute. So that's minimum, like just with the examples. Like, first off, that's a minimum 10 points of damage that you're going to take. Because for 1 cold damage at the start of every turn, so every 6 seconds, and you're going to do this for a minute, you're going to take 10 points of cold damage, minimum. If there's any other abilities that make you make damage, that's fine. But this does help me understand that there is obviously some sort of action economy into activating the cards. But all cards, all 17 for an entire minute. Only for 1 level of exhaustion. And I will say this, because I think we talked about this before, exhaustion doesn't mean much, even in 5th edition. Like, exhaustion's kind of a bogus detriment because no one uses it to the point of detriment. Like, it's very rare that I feel exhaustion actually comes into play. Personally. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't feel like exhaustion really like has that much of a play in the game to be like, oh my god, I'm worried about that. Especially for 17 effects. I'm totally exchanging 1 point of exhaustion for 17 effects all day long.
I mean, that should give you at least 4. I'm not gonna lie, at least 4.
I would say that honestly, once per long rest, you can activate any number of your card buffs simultaneously for 1 minute. And then you take a level of exhaustion for every number of cards you take. So if you have 17 at this,
2 maybe.
Well, because like how you get what, 5 points of exhaustion before you pass out?
6 before you die.
6 before you die. So even if you took 1 for every 5 cards you activated, right? So at level 17, you can activate any number of cards, so up to 17, with this ability for a minute. But for every 5 cards, so it means 1 through 5, you take 1 point of exhaustion. For 6 through 10, you take 2 points. And then through 11 through 15, it's 3 points. That way, that's halfway to death just off of the instantaneous activation of this. That at bare minimum is my ask. Because if you're going to get 17 active effects, you better be giving your all. And halfway to death, even in a game that I just don't feel uses exhaustion enough, because what's likely going to give you more exhaustion after that? If you gain 3 levels of exhaustion, you're very unlikely to get more. So it's just going to take you, what, a couple weeks to recover? A couple days? Like, I don't feel exhaustion's that big of a concern. But I agree with you. You've got to, if you're doing all of this, you've got to say it's a lot. But because this will increase, like up to level 20, you'll have 20 cards active, which means, to me, the level of exhaustion should equate to how many cards you activate. So if you, at level 20, do all 20 activations, that's 4 levels of exhaustion. I think that's justified.
I will say this. Having all 17 things active feels like type of magic that's higher than 9th level.
Yes. I'll agree with that.
And that's why I don't think it should be something, because like nobody can cast 10th level spells except for gods. I don't
Yeah.
think mortals should be have the type of power that we're talking about here.
Even if it gave you 5 levels of exhaustion, you know what I mean? Like it's got to be so detrimental that it truthfully is a choice.
I genuinely don't think your body would be able to sustain itself, to be able to continue to keep itself together, holding all of that energy, all that. I just don't. I think maybe maxing out at like 7, like 17.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
And even if at this point you were to do all your cards again, because we talked about like activating, you know, at this point you'd have 3 cards. Like, I'd be fine with that. Single level of exhaustion for 3 of these cards. If you only got 1 every 5 levels, be fine. But 17 cards, 17 abilities. You've got to have some crazy detriments.
If you wanted to activate all 17 of these, I would say at most, you could activate all 17 of them for 1 round and keep the negative effects for the next minute and take exhaustion.
Okay.
Like,
interesting.
That's the only way I can see all of those things coming out of one body.
Yeah.
It just feels so crazy to me.
All right, well, let's talk about this capstone.
So powerful.
Ace of Spades at level 20. Capstone, here we go. Level 20 capstone, we'd love to see it. You have mastered your deck. Choose one of your cards. So at this point, 20 cards. Choose one of them. You permanently gain its buff as a constant passive effect, and its associated debuff is removed entirely. So, I will say this.
Capstone.
I love the ability. I don't think it's a capstone. This limit break is way more of a capstone. Using every ability all at once is way more of a capstone than one permanent ability for life. These should be switched. I wouldn't even mind at level 13. I wouldn't even mind at level 13 getting one permanent buff. But the idea that at 3 levels prior, I could just activate all of them for a minute. Who cares about a permanent buff when every combat I can just go boom. All. Like, these have to be switched. The permanent level boost is great at level 17 because it's a one-off. But level 20, the capstone should be everything. I unleash everything. That feels more like the capstone. So my biggest thing right now is just swap these two. Swap level 17 and 20, and that would make more sense.
I definitely agree. I think Limit Break is so much more impactful and powerful than Ace of Spades. I do love what Ace of Spades does. I love the ability that it is. I think there's another.
Also, if you switch 20th,
like first level spell as a cantrip or something like that, which is kind of the same.
And if you switch these two, right? If you switch Ace of Spades and Limit Break, think about the order of operations. At 13th level, you fuse 2 cards. At 17th level, you get to choose one permanent card effect. But doesn't that mean you could choose your combined cards as your permanent effect? So if you were smart and knew this was coming, at 13th level, you could choose your best 2 cards and fuse them. Then at 17th level,
Chaos Sync works. It says it only fuses those cards for an encounter. So those cards.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. My bad. No, I overlooked that. I was thinking of a permanent fusing, but yeah, it only is 2. But but that would be kind of cool, is to be able to fuse 2 cards permanently, and then at 17th level choose that as your permanent effect, meaning you get essentially 2 permanent effects, and you get rid of the 2 debuffs. See, that would be a way that a min-maxer would think, but I wouldn't mind if this class worked, if you knew what to do, right? Like, I wouldn't mind that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't mind Ace of Spades, I don't mind Limit Break, but they need to be switched. It doesn't make any sense that they're in this order. I would much rather earlier get one permanent effect, but at my Limit Break be able to activate everything for a fight, because that's the BBEG moment, right? Like, the BBEG moment is me to just take out my whole deck of cards and go, fuck it.
Absolutely.
Throw them all in the air and they all just activate, and then we're like, let's fucking go. 1 minute I have to take you out. That feels like your capstone. That feels like I've mastered this deck and everything it has is mine. That's the capstone I want to see. Okay. This was cool. This was really interesting. I mean, I'm gonna say right now, I feel like it's broken. I feel like it's OP, and I feel like it's overcomplicated. But damn, do I love the idea.
Going up against Lavos.
We need to see the rest of the deck. We need to know what the rest of the deck is.
Going up against Lavos.
We need to know what the rest of the deck is, because that deck could be crazy. So I will say this, it's going to get the inspiration point. It's a super creative idea. I love the concept of building your own deck of many things and being able to use it. I just don't feel like this is the way to go about it. I think there's a lot of cool ideas in here. I don't think they all play well together. You know, stack the deck with a mulligan, with double draw, just doesn't make sense to me. However, the concept of building a deck that is like, it's almost like if a spell casting class had to like it's back in the day, like in first, you know, in first and second edition, when spellcasters had to build their spell list from the ground up instead of just saying, here's the list of spells you have. You can cast anything from this spell list, period, just anytime you want. Whereas before, you had to go and find the spell, learn the spell, keep the spell, and then use the spell. Nowadays, it's like, oh, you're a warlock? Here's all the spells that you can have. Right out the gate. You just know them because you're a warlock. Every warlock knows them. Period. End of story. No one cares how you learn them. You just know them. There's 20 spells. Like, that's where I feel this shines, is it's not just that standard gimme. There's a really unique approach to this, but there's also just inconsistencies that I can't get over.
Sure.
So as much as I like it in theory. I would not want to play this as a player. I wouldn't want to try to adopt this as a DM. We still haven't looked at the subclasses yet, which could fill in a lot. But the number one issue, the blatant obvious issue with this build so far, is we don't understand how the cards work. And that's its number one detriment. It's given us clues, but we don't know for sure, how do I activate and use these cards? Because Soul even said they're passive, but there's indication that there's some sort of activation, because they're not always all active. It's like,
I'll go back
how
to
long
our
do they...
chat log, because I've been saving this chat log as we've been going to see if there's any context that I've missed. But that's definitely the biggest thing for me, is being able to clearly identify what we are looking at when it comes to this subclass or this class. It's like, how do I use my abilities? How do these passives activate? How do I ensure that this one's on at this time? Like I almost look at it like I'm playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? You got the little dual disc thing on your arm, you got the cards in your hand, and the only ones that are active are the ones that you put down on your little dual disc. All right, so like, that's how I know this one's active. I've got a bunch in my hand, but that one's active, right? So like that.
We also don't know much about the game, right? Because this is also based off of the game Rounds. So I will say, I do not know anything about the game of Rounds. So there could be a lot of context that we're missing, right? Maybe if we knew about the game, we would have an intuitive understanding of how the card system worked, right? Because the game could make it more intuitive of how you use these cards. So as much as I hate to do it, but I have to be true to the form, and I have to be true to what we've done for the last almost 3 years at this point. I will give it the inspiration point. I think there's a lot here to work off of and get inspired by. I also do think that there is an idea here, though I will say I don't think it's a complete idea. That's my personal opinion only, is I just don't think it's complete. I don't think it's fully understood and fleshed out, because they're like we said, there are things that just don't work with each other. The fact that I can choose to swap out a card among 3 every day, but when I level up, I only get choice of 2, right? Those kind of things. So I will say, compatibility wise, again, I don't mind this. While I wouldn't want to play it, I am very, very interested in seeing what the subclasses can do, because I am intrigued by this. This is only the primary class. So what I'm thinking of is there's 3 the subclasses. what I'm most curious about is, are the subclasses going to be specific to the decks, right? Like, is one of the subclasses only going to choose from the suit of spades? Or will all subclasses choose from all three suits? So I'm very intrigued. I want to hear more.
Interesting.
But if I were to look at this and be given this to say, hey, would this work at High Point? It wouldn't. I don't have enough understanding of it. I don't have enough explanation. And there's not enough progression in here to make it make sense for me to say, hey, a player would have not only fun doing this in High Point, but I would be able to add it into the story. Right now, there's not enough for me. But I am interested. So there's not a lot of imbalance here. Most of it is either inconsistency or misunderstanding. It's not like, oh my God, that's too broken, or that doesn't make any sense. I just don't understand how to apply it. So with all that in mind, sorry, Soul, but keeping true to form, I'm going to have to give the Gambitier as the primary class a 4. It does get the inspiration point, but I can't use it. In no way could I apply this in High Point and make it make sense as it's written. And again, that's the only score, is a compatibility. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's usable. I could not apply this to High Point as it's currently written. I do want to know what the other three are, so we are going to go through all three, hopefully in a single stream. We're going to try that out next time.
That'd be dope.
Hopefully we'll be able to line that up with a remote stream from Kage. But yeah, as of right now, I just can't wrap my head around how I could apply this to High Point and make it make sense and entertaining, and that's why it's going to get a low score. I'm intrigued. I think it's a cool idea. I love the idea of building up your own deck. I just need to understand more about how it works, and I really need to understand about what other cards there are, because these are the only 5 we have to deal with. It does seem too powerful. Like, just these as examples make it seem way too powerful, and those debuffs don't make me worried. You know, doubling my damage dice, but they get 1 extra chance to crit. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Let them try to crit on a 19. I'm much more likely to kill them with double damage dice than they are to get off more than 1 crit in the rest of the battle. It's just, that's my only thing, is I feel like this leans into being overly complicated and overpowered without any real benefit to the story. But I think a lot of that can be cleared up by language. Like Kage and I mentioned, there's a lot of things in here that a few extra words, 1 extra sentence would clear a lot of things up and make it more understandable.
Absolutely.
So as always, I really hope you enjoyed that review. I'm sorry. I think that might to date be your lowest scored review. So I'm sorry if that upsets you, but it is the nature of things. I'm kind of glad because, you know, for a long time we were kind of making fun about the fact that people kept sending us like gold, and we were kept doing like 7s, 8s, and 9s, and everybody kept getting good scores. So it is possible to strike out. Again, this has nothing to do with the value of it. It has nothing to do with its implementation or its idea. It's just compatibility. So take it for what you will. I hope it was enlightening, but don't be discouraged. I still want to read the other ones. I still want to go through the subclasses. This is still a really unique idea, and I hope to understand it more. I really hope that as we go through the subclasses, we get a better understanding of how to play the class, and maybe that'll change our idea. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll see it for what it really is. Because again, we also have to keep in mind, it's not like Soul made this, you know, they didn't, slave over this for 10 months. This was a competition. It was a fast write-up, and it was just something they had to pump out with a theme.
Sure.
I think that they nailed the theme. I think they have a lot of cool ideas. I just don't think it's ready. That's all. That's my harshest critique. It's just not ready to actually be implemented. So I'm glad that you understand that.
Their average is still a 6.
Yeah, I mean that still keeps you at a 6, so it's not like it tanked you. And you know, I don't know. I mean, again, everyone has their own viewpoints. I think everybody here, whether we have a strong opinion or not, it's not about shitting on your build. It's just, again, these are knee-jerk reactions. The point of homebrew review is to give you the idea of what other people would think. And I hope it doesn't come across as, shitting on your build or shitting on your, your homebrew. It's just, yes, there are going to be some things that we and the audience respond to. You know what I mean? Some people are going to respond to things more positively than others. But I truthfully want to believe it's all in good faith. It's all for the purpose of making it better, not for telling people they don't know what they're doing. And I can't talk for the chat. I can't talk for anybody else who's here and critiquing you, and I can't do any of that. But I would like to believe that we all want this to work, and we'd all like to see it succeed. And if we have critique about it, it's just because we know it can be better. Whether that's true, take it for what you will. Yeah, and again, first attempt at a full class, and it was on a timer. I mean, this is great for, like, I'll tell you this, I wouldn't have been able to come up with this on a time limit. I would never been able to be this articulate. Like, this is a lot of detail and a lot of thought process. Like, I would almost say this, Soul. Consider it a compliment that our gripe is that it's too complex and too complicated when you were on a time limit and still were able to figure this all out. Like, put that into perspective. You were on a time limit, you had to pump something out with an idea, and somehow your brain went to that level and was like, I got this. And you were able to flesh this out in your head. Just because it doesn't work for us in our D&D game doesn't mean that it's not impressive that you were able to sit down and be like, hey, I got an hour and this is what your brain came up with. Don't discredit yourself because of that, right? That's one thing I will say is it's a very unique idea. I just don't know how I would implement it.
Absolutely.
And yes, homebrew is great for having pre-made classes. Like, having their layouts definitely improve things. So
they do a good job laying stuff out.
Right. Yeah. So please, I really hope that you're not discouraged by any means by our review. It's all meant to be, in good faith, and it's all meant to make things better. But just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it wouldn't work for somebody else. So of course, check the comments, check the Discord, let me see if anybody else has different ideas, because I'm just one guy who plays D&D occasionally and talks about it online. Like, don't take anything I say that serious. All right. I'm just some dude who tries to get content engagement online. Like, that's it. Dude. Just some dude, Actually, funny enough, like I've been kind of killing it today in like the last 2 days on TikTok. And so I did make a random fucking post where it's just me like kind of walking onto camera and looking at the camera and going like, oh, me? Oh, I'm nobody. And then I just walk off camera. Because like sometimes you just gotta remind people, like, if you're listening to me and giving a shit, you're doing the wrong thing in life, because I'm a fucking nobody. And I believe that. So, and I just walked on the camera like, well, me? I'm a nobody. It's just like, if you were confused, I don't care. I'm a nobody. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just
freaking lonely.
But no, my rage not my rage engagement, my engagement bait has definitely been working today. I have been killing it with the comment section.
Hey, that's what you gotta do sometimes. But no, I've been very, very excited about a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing, we've been reviewing, and it's been giving me a lot of really good ideas for how I run my games, how I deal with situations with my players, and I think that it's going to inevitably help me become more well-rounded. And I think that's what, at least I'm hoping, a lot of our community is looking for as well, because what inevitably ends up happening is when we open ourselves up to see what everybody else is doing, to see the way other people think about stuff, then it's like, okay, I can see what about your thought process I like and I enjoy. I can see what about your thought process that I'm like, you know what,
like I may get why you say that, but I think this over here, and I think this makes a lot more sense. And like if I'm consistent with this other thing that's contrary to what you're talking about, I feel like it's gonna make my games the way that I want to play them.
Right.
Again, it's not always better, but better for you isn't better objectively all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Better for you or better for who?
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, that was cool. Thank you, Soul. I do appreciate you sending that over. I am looking forward to the subclasses. Even if I can't use it, I still want to know how your brain works, and I just want to know more about these cards. I want to know if there's more examples and how to use them. And now that we got this idea of this deck building class, where can you take it? Like I'm now I'm gonna spend the next fucking weeks, months, however long it takes us to get to it. I'm gonna be thinking, how would I take this and then break it down into multiple ways to use it? You know what I mean? Other than breaking it down into the individual suits for each subclass, I don't know how they're gonna do that. So I will say that no matter what, I'm looking forward to figuring out how exactly each of the subclasses will utilize its ability.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, I don't have anything else for them. Do you have?
You Gucci over here, man.
All right, well, that was us for today. We do appreciate you. That was the first review of 2026. Many more to come, at least,
right.
Like 52,
Absolutely.
50, 52, something like that. But yeah, first review, kicking it off just right. Thank you so much, Soul, for sending that over our way. We look forward to many more homebrew reviews here every Monday. And if you are interested, feel free. Oh, hold up. Wrong button. And if you are interested, feel free to, join the Discord, join us, follow us. Links are in the doobly-doo in the description or in the chat down there. That way. There we go. All these. These are all the links that you can get.
Wild.
Just spam it real quick. All right. So anyway, we appreciate y'all. It's been fantastic. We will be back on Friday with some more. I don't know what we're gonna do on Friday. Maybe we have that conversation from last week, the action economy conversation that we have to figure out.
That's true.
And of course, if you're in house, maybe we'll play Plunder. I don't know. We tried that out over New Year's. It was a really fun game, but I wouldn't mind playing that on stream.
It was a very good time.
It really would be cool to play that on stream too. So anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed it. We are pumping out more and more content on the YouTube channel. So if you're not following YouTube, go there and follow it, because I am pumping out more and more content every single week. Now I'm doing Rust content. So if you like Rust, go check that out. But otherwise, we'll be back here on Friday as always. So I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I hope you had a great week ahead of you. We'll be back on Friday. Make sure to tune in. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.